Hello again, everyone. So this is the last post for Boston Week. Stopping off lastly at the Boston Bruins, the hockey team for the city of Boston. So we're going to talk about the Bruins today. Looking at their current record, they are 4th in the Atlantic, 28, 19, and 7, so 63 points. They're currently holding on to a wild card spot by 4 points. So if they make the playoffs at the current rate they're going, they'll squeak in. But if they can have a better second half and get the last few games of the season going, so they've played, quickly going to do the math in my head, 47, they've played 54 games, so you got about another 30, give or take, so games to go. So you want to try to, if they can have a 500 record in that and find a way to get close to that 90 plus points, then they should make the playoffs, no problem. But again, they're going to want to have a little bit better for the last 3 games of the season so that they don't just squeak in at the 8th. It'd be nice if they could kind of get into the top 4 or 5 spot there to make the playoffs, but I think they will make the playoffs with the roster they currently have. So, as a history of the team, they've won the Cup 6 times, most recently, of course, in the 2010-2011 season, and they've won their division 25 times. It's a little different now with the Atlantic and the Metropolitan, so they've moved the divisions and stuff around a little bit in the NHL, but before all those switches, they'd won their division 25 times, and they've also won the President's Trophy twice, and the President's Trophy goes to the team that has the highest points, so best overall record, in the NHL in the regular season. So they've won the President's Trophy in the 89-90 season, and then in the 2013-2014 season, so again, fairly recently. So clearly they have had a very competitive team. They won the Cup just a couple seasons ago, so clearly they got players who know how to win championships, and they can, if they do make it to the playoffs and they are still in 8th spot, they have that playoff experience that they could pull an upset and take out the number 1 team like the LA Kings have done in the past, kind of most recently as a team that squeaks in and then does the upset and beats the number 1. But obviously they'd like to get into the top 4 spot because then they'll have a bit more home games. Obviously, in a 7-game series they'd have 4 instead of only 3. If the series was to go pretty extended and take a 7-game series. So, looking also on the history, the player I'm going to talk about, obviously, Bobby Orr is probably their historical player. Everybody remembers that iconic photo with his goal there. And there is a museum. If you're ever in Ontario in Canada and you want to hit up Parry Sound, there's a Bobby Orr Museum, which I've been to. It's a really nice museum. It's a nice place if you're a hockey fan, if you're a Bruins fan, if you're a Bobby Orr fan, and I'm sure a lot of you who are watching this fit into one, if not all of those categories. So if you're ever in Ontario, hit up Parry Sound and check out the Bobby Orr Museum. Career stats for him: he had 270 goals, 645 assists in only 657 games. So clearly he had a very shortened career, but still amazing stats, makes it to the Hall of Fame. He had over a dozen knee surgeries, so a lot of people, it's hard to compare him with the greats like Wayne Gretzky and other players like that when he had such a shortened career because of his knees, but that's because of the intensity he played. When you saw him on skates, it was a magical thing to watch. So with 12 knee surgeries, players aren't going to play that long anyway. Nowadays, if you have 2 or 3 knee surgeries, you're probably calling it a career earlier than you'd like to. So for him, again, only 657 games, but when you look at his goals and his assists, he clearly produced for the Bruins and is somebody that the Bruins clearly idolize and like to be notified with, having him played 10 years on the team. Looking currently, though, at their current roster, leading the team in goals, Patrice Bergeron and Brad Marchand both have 15 goals apiece, so they're tied leading the team in goals there. Leading the team in assists is Carl Soderberg. He's got 23 assists on the team. So looking through the roster, they have talented players, like I said, with Patrice Bergeron and Brad Marchand. Bergeron also has 21 assists. Marchand has 28 points overall. So they got some talented players there. Patrice Bergeron has 198 career goals, so he just needs a couple more goals to get that 200 career goal plateau. Obviously, Louis Eriksson is another good player. They got 12 goals, 19 assists this season. Milan Lucic, clearly another great player, 11 goals, 20 assists. He's got 197 career assists, so he just needs 3 more to get to 200 career assists, so that's another nice milestone for him to try to get to. And David Krejci, he has 19 assists this season, and he has 287 career assists, so he needs 13 to get to his 300 career assist mark, which he should be able to make this season. So those are looking at their current players who are a little established and clearly are some stars. One name I didn't mention, which people are probably going to be surprised about, is Zdeno Chara. Clearly, if you were to label somebody as the face of the franchise for the Bruins right now, it would probably be him. Just clearly by his stature and his intensity and the way he plays the game. You don't see too many 6'10" guys on skates playing in the NHL. Most of those guys are playing center for an NBA team. But Zdeno Chara, his stats are a little down this season. He is getting up there in age. He'll be 37 this upcoming year. So he's getting up there in age as a defenseman, and like I said, his stats have taken a hit. But I think that's when you can switch over, and I'm going to talk about some players to watch. I think clearly a goalie is always going to be the person the team's going to want to look at, because if your goalie can't stop the puck, it doesn't matter if you're scoring 5 or 6 goals a night. If he's letting in 6 or 7 goals a night, you're not winning games. And to be fair, if you're an NHL goalie letting in that many goals, you're probably not going to be in the league that long anyway. But obviously, Tuukka Rask is an elite goaltender. This season, he's got a .923 save percent average and a 2.28 goals against average. So just to kind of elaborate on those stats for people who might not be too familiar with those, your save percentage is how many times you've stopped the puck from going in based on shots. So for example, if you had 10 shots against you and you let in 1 goal for every 10 shots, you'd have a 900 save percentage, if that makes sense. And then looking at your goals against average, that's just about how many goals you allow a game. So right now he's allowing just over 2 goals a game, which is really good for an NHL goalie. If you have players on your team like Bergeron, Marchand, Lucic, and guys who can score the puck and make an impact, they should be able to score 3 goals a game for you, which means if your goalie's only letting in 2 and you can score 3 or more, you're going to win games. So Tuukka Rask clearly is a great guy to have between the pipes for the Bruins. Looking at players, like I said, to watch as well, who are young guys, is with Chara being an older defenseman, they still got 2 great young guys on their defense, and Dougie Hamilton and Torrey Krug. Dougie Hamilton, he's only 21 years old, and Krug's only 23. So again, these are young guys, haven't been in the league that long, but Dougie Hamilton's already got 29 points this year with 20 assists, and Torrey Krug has 27 points this year with 17 assists. So clearly these are young guys who are producing for the team and making an impact. So that's nice to have those couple of young guys, especially when you traded away Sagan a few years ago. Obviously not a defenseman, but a good young player. Is you have to have some nice young guys to still make an impact and have your team go into the future and produce and make the playoffs. So with those 2 young defensemen, with Chara getting a little older, if he decides he wants to retire or he can't produce the way he used to, you need to have some young guys who can step up, and clearly Hamilton and Krug are going to do that. Nice young forward they have on the left wing, Riley Smith. He's also only 23 years old, and he's already got 27 points this season as well, 10 goals, 17 assists. So when you look at stats like that, he's putting out similar stats to Milan Lucic and some proven veterans. So another good young player to watch and see what the Bruins can do. So again, like I said, they got a playoff spot right now, just barely. So they have to have a solid last 30 games or so of the season to make that playoffs, and hopefully get into the top 4 spot there, so that they can have some more home games and possibly an easier opponent. But like I said, the playoffs are a nice thing to watch. You never know what can happen. Unexpected things happen. The 8th seed can beat the 1st seed, no problem, especially if you have good team chemistry, some veteran leadership, some playoff experience, which the Bruins have all 3 of those categories, seeing as they won the President's Trophy obviously in 2013, 2014, and won the Cup in 2010 and 2011. So a lot of the players that are on the team now obviously were there when they won the Cup those few years ago. So they need to continue to play, continue to keep an eye on these young guys with Dougie Hamilton, Krug, and Riley Smith, and let these veterans, with Bergeron and Marchand and Lucic and stuff, keep producing, keep pushing to get that playoff run and not just squeak in there, because you want to make sure you have more home games and just an easier opponent. But if you're making the playoffs as an NHL team, you're a good team to begin with. So it doesn't necessarily matter if you're 8th or 1st seed. Obviously, 1st seed is better, but the 8th seed can still knock out a 1st seed. So they want to do a little bit better just for the home games, and like I said, to potentially have an easier opponent. So keep an eye on Bergeron for 2 more goals, and he'll have his 200th career. And Lucic just needs 3 more career assists to get to 200 career assists. So there's some nice little milestones to keep an eye out when you're watching the Bruins game in the near future. Thanks again for cluing in, and I will talk to you next week. All right, bye.